Hello again. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. How are you? I hope you're in good health, secure. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. And I'm Sylvain, as you know. And we are finally getting into this artist proof copy of Volume 1 of the MahaPariNirvana Sutra. This is, as I've already said in previous video, but I'm going to say it again, and I'll probably repeat it several times because over the years, this sutra has thrown me for a bit of a loop a few times, and I've looked for other translations. There are precious few in English, and the old one that's was translated from Chinese by, what is his name? I know I wrote it in here. It's in the front. Yeah, Kosho Yamamoto. I should look that up and see what year he did that. It's been translated by others horribly. And there's a lot of influence in the translations that I'm picking up from Theravada school. So authors, they can't help themselves. They're biased. It's okay, I have a bias as well. But my bias is informed by, first of all, Nichiren. Nichiren's writings from both schools of translations also. But if you've followed what I have something like 350 video talks on the Gosho Zenshu, the entirety of those, even those that are somewhat questionable, and I point out in them how the voice, Nichiren's voice, isn't quite right in some of them. So we go through all of that, and being as I'm somewhat autistic, I can't stand for inconsistencies. You know that. One of the big inconsistencies is language. The language in English that's infected with religious concepts and things that just don't belong in Buddhism. And to you and I, that's confusing. How can you talk about this when it doesn't exist in Buddhism? So as a consequence, I reread Shakyamuni, different translations, Nichiren, both the Zenshu and the, why is it not, is it Taisho? No, it's not Taisho, although, yes. But Taisho is not concerned with pre-Nichiren, right? I can't remember, but it's the translations that Nichiren Shu uses, amongst others. Anyway, all of this is to say that the language alone that was used in these translations, oh man, horrible misunderstandings. And I already talked about that in the foreword, right? And so I've made replacements to make that language more consistent and logical. So my bias is for clarity, right, of meaning, and language that supports that clarity of meaning. I'm not trying to change anything, right? There was one paragraph in a chapter in here that was so attacking women, and I thought, I don't care if he is talking to people of that initial, this is 3,000 years ago and so forth, but this is teachings that happen after the Lotus Sutra. And I understand he's teaching in different chapters here to the capacity and the experience of students that have maybe not studied that long or are still stuck in the Shravaka and Pratyekabuddha kind of realms and practicing toward that counterfeit dharma, right? The false nirvana. And he has to teach them to get past that, but he has to teach them at their level of understanding. So I understand This sutra is full of that kind of thing, and it's uniquely different from the other sutras we've studied, because the other sutras we've studied, either by nature or by the translators like Kumarajiva, are collections of a particular set of teachings, sermons, lectures, I would call them. There's one of those words, right? Sermon. I mean, would you say your physics professor was keen to give sermons every day when he was teaching class? No, he was a lecturer, right? A professor. So this is Shakyamuni. He's a lecturer. And over a period of 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever time period that he was trying to move understanding along, depth of understanding, meaning along, he didn't just sit and repeat for 10 years the same words every single day, in and out, blah, blah, blah. He had the same theme, and he spoke about different aspects of it. If you watch the videos, some 40-some video, or maybe more, on the TLK Lotus Dharma Sutra, right? There's several playlists of different translations and so forth on this channel of the Lotus Sutra. And it's obvious that the Lotus Sutra is a cohesive from A to Z of what you need to let go of, what you need to now investigate, and how you need to be in the world with this new knowledge. That's the Lotus Sutra, right? It's a manual, an owner's manual of being a bodhisattva mahasattva, right? A fully enlightened bodhisattva, which until the Lotus Sutra was still misunderstood by all of his students. They were still chasing after that arhat thing, but that wasn't complete enlightenment. So there you have it. The sutras we've read follow an arc within a certain teaching. Yeah? Not this one. Not this one. This one is a collection that's all over the map, because this is the last opportunity Shakyamunibuddha had to communicate with his followers of every level at the time. This was after teaching the Lotus Sutra, so they're not ignorant. They may not understand the Lotus Sutra. They may have been there listening and trying to absorb the Lotus Sutra, but it simply was, they just weren't completely grasping it. And as you'll recall in the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamunis professed their future enlightenment. Some enlightened on the spot, but some not until some future date, because they still had learning to do. Remember that statement? Those who have completed their learning, their lessons, their understanding, and those who still had more learning to do. So he's addressing that whole gamut in this book. So that's quite different than the other sutras. So let's start with chapter 1. Good place to start. Introductory. Thus have I heard. At one time, Shakyamunibuddha was staying at Kusinagara in the land of the Mayas, or Malas, the community of mourners, close to the river Ajitavati, where the twin sal trees stood. At that time, the great bhikshus, as many as 80 billion, 100,000, were with the world-honored one. Now, you know the hyperbole of Buddhism, right? This isn't to say that there were 80 billion monks on Vulture Peak. There's not. You couldn't fit them in it. You certainly couldn't see the edges of them. They were beyond comprehension, more close to the meaning, and very inclusive. In other words, whether they were there in person or not isn't the issue. The issue is that this following teaching, what I'm about to say, applies to this unfathomable number of bhikshus. And, of course, bhikshunis and so forth, but still very much misogynistic. All right, so I put a note in here. Remember that this lecture is delivered after the Lotus Sutra and that time when Shakyamuni's life was coming to an end. All those in attendance resemble the assembly pictured in the Lotus, remember? Where the dialogue and teaching are meant to reach all people, and certainly those who have practiced for decades with Shakyamuni and all. Most, if not all, those described in this dialogue are very nervous and afraid of losing their close relationship with Shakyamunibuddha, with whom they continue to have the false idea is the one and only Buddha or Tathagata, rather than knowing that the Tathagata nature is all of karmic potential for enlightenment, and that Shakyamunibuddha embodies that same universal Tathagata nature that is extant in each and every thing, as well as themselves in the universe. Shakyamuni spends a great deal of time, of his last remaining energies, toward repeating this fact ad nauseum, but to no avail. It is as Nichiren has written, quote, "It is not simply not the right time, nor these people's capacity," end quote. Oops, no end quote. Melly Mel to the rescue. Already noticing things I need to correct. It's a little thing, but still something that must be corrected. And since I brought up Mel, where's my pen? Was kind enough, since I complain about finding my glasses so often. Mel was kind enough to send me the lovely beaded leash you see me wearing on these glasses, which means that at least within the sphere of where I am at the moment, I'll know where to find the darn things. So thanks. And to all of you who've sent, I should take a moment to thank all of you for your donations, your support, whether on Patreon, right, or on PayPal, or occasionally I've had people send me candles or incense. It's really great, and I totally appreciate it. Your donations are what keep me going. I don't do the what's it called? The commercials anymore, the ad breaks. I find them revolting and very interrupting, so I just turned off monetization. So you guys are my sole support to keep this going. So I truly appreciate your support. All right, let's continue. I finish off with this little paragraph here. Many of the questions and answers should thereby seem quite familiar to all of you, whom have practiced and found yourselves questioning certain statements or concepts of the teachings of Buddhism. It is my thought that this reading, along with my comments, will serve as a study resource and insight-filled time for the strengthening of your Lotus Sutra practice and deeper understanding of Nichiren's writings. All of my comments will be italicized for easy identification. So, to continue. They surrounded him, the 80 billion monks, front and back, on the 15th of the second month, as Shakyamunibuddha was about to enter nirvana. He, with his divine power, spoke in a great voice, which filled the whole world and reached the highest of the Pure Lands. It said to all beings in a way each could understand. There it is. It's telling you what's going to happen now. Today, Shakyamunibuddha, the alms-deserving and all-enlightened one, pities, protects, and, with an undivided mind, sees beings as he does his own son, Rahula. So, he is the refuge and house of the world. The greatly enlightened world-honored one is about to enter nirvana. The beings who have doubts may now all ask questions of him. So there's the setup for the whole MahaPariNirvana Sutra. Right? It's very quick, but it's set out right in the beginning. If you've got doubts, whoever you are, what level of practice you are, bring it on, because he's leaving. Now's the time to ask your question. That's what it says. And he's going to see everyone, no matter what their level of understanding, with the compassion, love, and respect that he has for his own son. It's pretty powerful stuff, and it's not too hard to understand, right? Moving on. At that time, early in the morning, the world-honored one emitted from his mouth rays of light of various hues, namely blue, yellow, red, white, crystal, and agate. The rays of light shone all over the 3,000 great thousandfold Buddha lands, right? This is everywhere, not just with our limited eyesight of around Vulture Peak, right? So there's that hyperbole again, hyperbole. I was joking about saying it that way the other day, and it just fell out of my mouth. Also, the 10 directions were alike shone upon. All the errors and worries of beings of the 3,000 realms of existence, as they were illuminated, were expiated. Now you'll recall, note Sylvain, the 3,000 Buddha lands is recognizable here as the 3,000 realms later developed by Tendai, Ji's scholarship, knowing, as he points out, the interpenetrating realms all have Buddha within them, and more accurately, all born of the Tathagata field. We can understand that Shakyamunibuddha's teachings penetrate all realms of possibility of innumerable minds to clarify. So, touching on a little bit of Tendai and Nichiren there, right? People saw and heard this, and worry greatly beset them. They all sorrowfully cried and wept. Oh, the kindest Father, oh, woe is the day, oh, the sorrow. They raised their hands, beat their heads and breasts, and cried aloud. Of them some trembled, wept, and sobbed. At that time, the great earth, the mountains, and great seas all shook. Then all of them said to one another, quote, let us for the present suppress our feelings. Let us not be greatly smitten by sorrow. Let us speed to Kusinagara, call at the land of the Malas, touch the feet of Shakyamunibuddha, and pay homage and beg, O Buddha, please do not enter parinirvana, but stay one more kalpa. We can consider a kalpa as an eon here, or less than a kalpa, which is a common refrain in speaking to the mission of Bodhisattva. The effect, remember I've talked about influence before, and to the degree you affect the understanding of to other people of the teaching, this is true of everything, but certainly in Buddhism, this affect, this influence we have over others to practice Buddhism lingers long after our corporeal body, our physical body returns to the earth, right? It's all about our sentient mind and the influences we have. This is why Bodhisattva and the Lotus Sutra are so important, because it's not about this physical body. It's about the emergent mind, the consciousness that emerges from this massively complex physical instantiation of life, moment to moment to moment to moment, that this emergent awareness, right, can change people's experience of life. And that expression, look, Shakyamuni's enlightenment is still affecting people, you and I. Nichiren has affected you and I. I mean, you understand. They pressed their palms together and said again, quote, "The world is empty. Fortune has departed from us beings. Malevolent things will increase in the world. You hurry up, go quickly. Soon the Tathagata field, i.e. the Buddha, will surely enter nirvana." So there's this equation here of Shakyamunibuddha is enlightenment. He is Tathagata-ness. And when Siddhartha Gautama, otherwise referred to as Shakyamunibuddha, when he dies, what dies along with him is the entire potential of Tathagata-ness. No, that's wrong, right? We all know that. But they didn't. They didn't understand that. This is part of that confusion of Tathagata Buddha, right? So I spend a lot of time in this correcting that, and I may, in reading it to you, find where I've stumbled. So let's pay attention to that, yeah? They also said, quote, "The world is empty. From now on, no one protects us, and we have none to pay homage to. Poverty-stricken and alone, if we once part from the world-honored one, and if doubts arise, who are we to ask? Who's going to keep us on the straight and narrow? Who's going to keep us motivated? Oh my goodness, when he leaves, we won't have any reference whatsoever." They've totally missed the point that Buddha is theirs. It's already there. It's part of their physical being. Their Tathagata field is always there. All they need to do is practice correctly and awaken it, invoke it. Still, they're not getting that, yeah? They got stuck on ideology. What's the word I'm looking for? Idolatry. The antithesis of Buddhism. They've become so attached to Shakyamuni that they actually believe that Shakyamuni is the source of Buddha-ness. They still don't get that it's in their own mind. How could that be? It's a limitation of 3,000-year-old peoples, yeah? It still is a limitation for many people, isn't it? So again, with another note, can't help myself. I don't want to make this. Okay, we got plenty of time. Of course, in today's practice, we would recommend that they chant and ask their own Tathagata nature to provide direction. Isn't that what we do? When we chant, we awaken our Tathagata-ness via our experience of Buddha in mind. Our ninth consciousness is the experience of Buddha, which is the manifestation of our Tathagata potential, yeah? But I don't want to confuse it now. Our Buddha mind is our ability to experience, see, hear, smell, taste, awareness of total clarity. Actually, if these monks understood the lessons of the Lotus Sutra, they would understand that the Tathagata field is Parinirvana. We may need to talk about that more. All right, continuing. At that time, there were many of Shakyamunibuddha's disciples there, such as the Venerable MahaPariNirvana, one of the 10 disciples, principal disciples of Gautama Buddha. He was foremost among the disciples in explaining the brief discourses of Shakyamunibuddha. Vakula and Upananda, all such great bhikshus. Wait a minute. You notice that there's a reference to Gautama Buddha, again, Theravada, right? We never refer to Buddha as Gautama Buddha. We've referred to him as Shakyamuni Buddha. It's confusing to say Gautama because that's Siddhartha's identity pre-enlightenment. So it's confusing, yeah? Anyway, all such great bhikshus, when they saw the light emanating from Shakyamuni's mouth, shook and were greatly stirred, so much so that they could not hold themselves well. Their minds became muddled and chaos ruled. They cried aloud and displayed variegated grief. There were present at that time 8 million bhikshus. All were enlightened ones, partially enlightened ones. They were unmolested, unlimited in mind, and could act as they willed. They were segregated from all illusions, and all their sense organs were subdued. Like great Naga serpent kings, they were perfect in great virtue. They were accomplished in the wisdom of the all-quiescent energy, and perfect in the attainments of their own in inner attainments. Inner attainments. They were like the sandalwood forest with sandalwood all around, or like a lion king surrounded by lions. They were perfect in all such virtues. They were the true sons of Shakyamunibuddha. Early in the morning, when the sun had just risen, they were up from their beds and in places where they lived and were about to use their toothbrushes. Really? Toothbrushes? I don't know if they had toothbrushes back then. When they encountered the light that arose from Shakyamunibuddha's person. Another note, actually, we will encounter numerous uses of the term quiescent energy or all quiescent energy. It should be understood that this term is an abstract reference to the Tathagata-ness or the Tathagata nature inherent in the engine of life. The quiescence, sometimes referred to, is also an attempt to embody this energy of potential in pre-formation and form, but essential to the arising of all phenomena. Now, you'll recognize that rhetoric as mine, and hopefully you either have already or you will now be inspired to get a copy of Buddhism Reference, right? You can get an e-book copy, or you can buy purchase a printed copy, right? The links are on the website, and the links to the website will be below in the description. But understanding, I want the consistency here. If you understanding that quiescent energy is the foundation of all phenomena, and within the foundation of all phenomena, there are several aspects or ideas or potentials, right? Multiple potentials that manifest as everything from a helium atom to you and I, this camera, right? This building, rocks, trees, everything manifests from this quiescent energy through potential formations into form. I mean, this is the equation. This is the engine of life. And those who've been listening to me for a while are familiar with those terms. And so I'm reintroducing them as I go here so that you can use that lens to understand the rhetoric here. If you're new here, I hope you understand that. There are plenty of videos on this channel to help you in that. And use the comments to speak with one another. I read everything, whether it's an email to me or in the comments, and I will respond in some form to, with whatever limits I have on my time. Let's continue. I'm going to finish this page, and then, we'll leave this for another time. I don't want to make these videos too long. And they said to one another, "Hurry up with bathing and gargling and be clean." So they did say, and their hair stood on end all over their bodies, and their blood so ran that they looked like palasa flowers. Blushed, right? Tears filled their eyes, which expressed great pain to benefit and give quietude to beings, to establish the transcendent truth of the all-quiescent energy of Mahayana, to reveal what Shakyamunibuddha had, by expediency, latently, not to miss a single word of his last teachings, taught so that all his lectures would not come to an end, and to subjugate the minds of all beings, they sped to where Shakyamunibuddha was. They fell down at Shakyamunibuddha's feet, touched them with their heads, walked around him 100,000 times, folded their hands, paid homage, stepped back, and sat to one side. Here I am again. From the oft-used examples of previous sutra, we can surmise that the light show coming from Shakyamunibuddha's mouth was in fact the word of his last lecture being spread far and wide to call attention to this final opportunity. The term all-quiescent energy here is an abstract translation of the meaning of the lifespan of the Tathagata chapter of the Lotus Sutra. All right, continuing. At that time, there were present such women as Kudara and such bhikshunis, nuns, as Subhadra, Upananda, Sargaramati, and 6 million bhikshunis. They were all great enlightened ones, all asravas, or free of inner defilements, having been done away with, and they were unmolested in mind and could act as they willed. Quite something if you think back to India. Today in India, right, this freedom isn't known. So they were parted from all illusion, and all their sense organs were subdued. Like great Nagas, they were perfect in virtue. They were accomplished in wisdom of all quiescent energy. Also, early in the morning after the sun had just risen, their hair stood on end all over their body, and their blood ran through their vessels that they all looked like palasa flowers. So they all were flushed, right, ready to meet Shakyamunibuddha. Tears filled their eyes, which bespoke great sorrow. They desired to benefit beings, to give quietude and bliss, and establish the transcendent truth of the all-quiescent energy of Mahayana. They meant to manifest what Shakyamunibuddha had by expediency latently taught, so that all his lectures would not disappear. In order to subjugate the minds of all beings, they sped to where Shakyamunibuddha was, touched his feet, walked around him 100,000 times, folded their hands, paid homage, stepped back, and sat to one side. Of the bhikshunis, there were again those who were the Nagas of the Bodhisattvas and humans. They had attained the 10 stages of Bodhisattva development, where they abided unmoved. They were born as females so as to teach beings. They always practiced the 4 limitless minds of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, thereby attaining unlimited power and acting well in place of Shakyamunibuddha. Now, one little note here. It is a notable development after the Lotus Sutra that women were now afforded the privileged place of teaching the sutras as compared to their having been barred from even reading them before this time. Remember, Nichiren talks about that. Well, he talks about it in reference to letters he's written to women who are grappling with that. And we've talked about that too. All right, that's it for this video. I'll try not to leave as many pauses between videos as I have lately. I think that will be doable. I'm glad to be doing this again. It's important for my practice and my well-being. So thank you for giving me that opportunity and participating. Let me know how you're doing. Use the comments section. It's important. Please like and subscribe. Both of those things help the algorithm reach out to more people. And so that's really great. We really need to grow this channel as it's really a representation of our Sangha, right? Our Sangha is online. And being as it's online, it means each one of us can deepen our personal practice. Buddhism, as I've often said, is an individual practice. It can be fun and enjoyable to be in a group. So by all means, do that. Have little study meetings at your house, even if it's just one friend or several. You know, heck, you could watch these videos and then have a discussion period afterward. and trumpets and tea, if you like, whatever floats your interaction. Always begin your gatherings with daimoku, and if you can, gongyo, yeah, and end them with daimoku, so that the ninth consciousness is open during and reminded at the end that this is why we're all together. So I encourage you to do that. If especially, I mean, we're humans. We all need to interact. The Lotus Sutra is about that very thing. That if you're going to reach full, complete enlightenment, you can't do it on your own. But teaching yourself how to reach Buddhahood, nobody can do it for you. So working together, we each teach ourselves how to manifest our Buddhahood. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Thank you again for your support. Take care of your health, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.